First in-person episode took us a little bit to set it up.
Logistics.
We've been here already, maybe 2 hours. But yeah,
Oh, it's sick. Looks good.
I think it looks relatively professional as well.
I fuck with it.
Yes. Yeah. Anyhow, Nevo, maybe you do a bit of an intro so that the audience can get to know you. And
Sure. Well, originally I'm from Israel. Grew up in Brazil for some years. Picked up my love for sports there, I guess, for football at least, and then from there to sports. We traveled around a bit as a family, a bit of the US, Japan, and eventually always came back to Israel. And for the past 4 years, I've been here with you.
Madrid.
Yeah, been studying here. And this past summer, just after graduating and before starting working full time now, a few months ago, I decided that I wanted to travel. I didn't want to just start work straight after uni. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do something, I don't know, a bit more of my own, a bit more unique that would also combine fitness because I love, moving. And yeah, and then I went on this trip that I guess that's what you want to talk about.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about today. So maybe for most people that are gonna hear this, probably they don't know what trip you went on. I'll give a bit of context. We graduate. You begin you had been speaking about it for a few weeks before, maybe a few months. You wanted to go on a bike trip, although you didn't know exactly where, but like around Europe, and you ended up deciding to go all the way from Barcelona to Greece. Took you around 70 days on a bike, and the bike was your best friend.
Yeah.
It was you, a bike, the road, and strangers that were just like taking you in.
Mm.
What was the motivation behind embarking in such an unusual journey?
So, well, that I'll give the motivation, and then it will connect me to the background and to how I even went about this thing. But like you said, we graduated, and I had been speaking about it a couple months before. I was like, what should I do? Maybe I really wanted to go back to Brazil as well. So maybe I'll go travel in South America. But maybe I have this idea of this bike trip, which I wasn't sure how and if I was gonna do. But bit by bit, I got more into the idea, and then originally the idea came already a few years ago, but it was always very passive in my mind. I think I read this thing. It was on the news of this guy that did from Belgium to Portugal or something like that. And it was 5, 6 years ago. And I was like, damn, one day I want to do something similar. I don't know why, like it lit something in me. Right.
Mhm.
And then I forgot about it. Very passive in the back of my mind. And then the catalyst that kind of brought me back to, thinking about it was that last year, I think you met the guy. It was a holiday, one of our holidays in Israel, and there was this random dude that was biking from Paris to Africa, Israeli guy, half French, and so he was working in Paris, came through Madrid, and a friend of us, like we had a mutual friend that connected between us, and it was like, hey, invite him to that holiday dinner that you're doing. Long story short, we ended up becoming quite good friends, and he was telling me about this trip that he was doing, and I was like, man, I had this idea a few years ago, and I'm like, I don't know, now you're just bringing it back to my mind, and it gives me the desire to actually go and explore, explore the idea. So he was a big catalyst in bringing the idea back to life, and then he also helped me a lot in
Setting it up,
more than setting it up,
logistics.
answering the questions that I had. So yeah, he answered a lot of the questions and doubts that I had. And then after graduation, I went back to Israel to see my family. And when I came back to Madrid, I was like, okay, once I get a bike, then I know I'm leaving. And I got a secondhand bike here in Madrid, found a guy on Wallapop, did a little bit of research. I didn't know at the time which type of bike I needed to cross countries. It's not just a regular road bike that I would take here in the city. And once I got the bike, I was like, okay, it's happening. I'm doing it. Let's fucking go. And from there, after 3, 4 weeks, I was on the go.
It's crazy. I think many of these things, as humans, sometimes we have these things that we really want to do, when you said that it was an idea that you had been having for a few years now. Took me back to like the decision of mine to start this podcast, which it had been something on my mind, like, oh, something I maybe would want to do someday for, I would say, maybe a year, maybe more. Um, and just like you, I think, first week after returning from Colombia now this year, I was speaking with Michelle, our good friend, and she told me like, dude, you just start.
Just do it. There's
Just do
no,
it.
it's cliche, but there's no good time.
Yeah. It's the only thing, like, just do it. You know, you just need to jump.
Yeah.
And I bought this microphone through which everyone's listening to us right now. And that's it. I think one of the important things in life is just getting started.
Yeah. And so you need sometimes that little commitment that's gonna get you, okay, boom. You know, you got this mic and so now I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. And I couldn't have gotten a secondhand like shitty mic. And I was like, no. I'm gonna commit to it.
I know I got a secondhand shitty bike. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong,
but you didn't get a shitty bike. You
Well-
spent €1,000 on your freaking bike.
right, but relatively it's a normal
Yeah,
bike.
you could have spent 5,000.
But I could have continued thinking about, oh, do I do it? Do I not? Doing research online, like how do I pack my things? What type of bags do I get? How do I cross borders?
But it took you a while as well.
Exactly. But once I got the bike, I was like, okay, now I know I'm leaving. I just got to figure it out. Before, doing that first step, you can stay in hesitation a lot of time.
Getting started changes everything.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the logistics of living 60 days on the road, 70 days on the road.
I'll tell you first about the logistics of getting ready.
Yeah, because that was a journey in itself.
Exactly.
I remember we were both here in Madrid.
Yeah.
You were like
testing different setups.
You bought like 7 different type of bike seats, like, oh, this one feels better on my ass. This one, not so much.
I didn't buy 7 different types of bike seats, but I was checking maybe different bike seats because my main concern was,
comfortability.
Not comfortability. Like if I ride here, one day in June, I did from Madrid to Segovia on a mountain bike and I barely finished the day because my ass was dying. And so I said, if I'm going to do this for 2 months, how am I going to, I need something comfortable that's not going to, completely destroy my butt. And the thing is, okay, so it took me 4 weeks, I think, from the moment I got the bike until, the moment I got to Madrid, started researching for the bike until I actually left. And within those 4 weeks, I was checking every single, piece of equipment out of some sort of mental blockage. And imagine I'm going, and now I knew that, I knew that I'm going and I don't know what to expect. There was a lot of uncertainty for sure. But I knew that I want to do it and finish it. Like my goal initially was Montenegro, right? Not Greece. We can speak about it later, but I ended up continuing to Greece. But originally it was Montenegro.
I think you would have had the time, you would have gone all the way to China.
Oh no, I wanted to go all the way to Israel actually, to go back home. If I could enter Syria and Lebanon, I would have done just through Istanbul and then Syria, Lebanon. But
sorry, continue.
But what was I gonna say? I forgot.
You were speaking about like the preparation, getting everything set up for the bike trip.
Yeah, no. So I knew that I wanted to finish it, and if I'm going on 2 months, mind you, before that again, the most I've biked was 1 day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know that I'm minimizing the problems that I could have in terms of logistics. So I was checking everything that I was buying that it was ideal. So for the seat as well, like you mentioned, I checked different seats and in the end, you cannot know, especially with that. You just try and some things you have to figure out on the way. But considering my family is also not here, it's not like I have if I was back home, I'd get the tent from here, the sleeping bag from here, the equipment, for cooking from that friend, a lot of, just you sort yourself out. Here I had to get everything from zero. So it took some time. But it was mainly mental, kind of preparation. Because at some point I realized it's been 3-4 weeks, just leave,
Yeah.
And that's why I just left. I wasn't ready yet, but I just left.
There's this type of things in life that you can make them as perfect as you want. And sometimes it's never going to be 100% there. Maybe not as good of a reference, but people tell me like, oh, how long did it take you to write your thesis? And I think you have the same story as me. And it's like, I could have written it in a month, but I could have also written it in 7 months. It's like an infinite battle. Same thing as like getting in shape. You never arrive to, oh, I'm in perfect shape, I can relax now. and maybe it's relatively similar when you were preparing, that you
can always be more prepared.
you could have always like bought a second like rim for the tires, you know, in case like you ever you had like things that
No, your point is that you can always prepare more.
Yeah.
You can always say like, oh, just one more day of this, just one, you know.
Yeah, but then at some point it becomes procrastination.
Yeah. But so at some point I just decided to leave. But what I did have to get was the basics, like you said. I needed a sleeping bag, I needed a tent, I needed cooking stuff, Decathlon visits, like, you know, maybe 5, 6 Decathlon visits. And I needed the bags. I think the most important thing was the bags to sit perfect, like good on the bike. If you remember,
Yeah.
we were checking together, you know, some setups, and I'm like, okay, I cannot even ride half of Madrid with this. So, you know, forget about riding from here to France or,
More.
yeah, but just like the beginning. So yeah, it was a lot of logistics, and at some point I just left to Barcelona. I didn't want to do. It was peak of summer. I didn't want to do from Madrid to Barcelona. It's kind of a
You took the
fairly
train.
yeah. I hitchhiked on a blah blah car, loaded the bike in her trunk, and she dropped me in Barcelona. And then I met a couple friends there for a few days, and then just left. And I remember specifically the day that I left. I was trying to fix something on the GPS on the Garmin, to get my route for the day. Spent hours on it, didn't manage.
And at some point you're just like,
No, it was 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. it's gonna be dark. I was just like, okay, I cannot stay another day. Like I had
desperate to leave.
not desperate. Yeah, I was like itching to leave.
Yeah.
And so I just left. And the moment I left, I'll never forget. Like I was asking this guy, hey, can you just like I went down to the street. I asked this guy, hey, can you just take a quick video of me like leaving, you know, so that I have this memory of me just starting. And he did. And then obviously I did the
Turn
turn
around.
yeah, to get back my phone. Trusted him to keep my phone. And
Not to run away in
Exactly.
Barcelona.
in Barcelona, and I had already bad experience there. And yeah, took the phone, and then I started writing, and then suddenly, like the freedom. I don't know, the
You
feeling
felt you relaxed.
the feeling of freedom, and that relates also to the reasons you said. Why did I even choose on going on such an adventure? I think adventure for me is the key word.
Yeah, it's not a trip. It's an adventure.
It's a trip. It's a travel. It's an experience. It's everything. But if I need to sum it up in one word, it was a massive adventure. And one of the reasons that got me to do it in the first place with a bike was because I wanted to travel, and like I said, I wanted to have some sort of physical aspect to it. And I thought a bike is an awesome way to see places, not fast enough, but also not slow enough, you know, not too fast.
You're not walking, but you're not in a car either.
Yeah, you're not you're not just passing through.
And it's very versatile. You can stop anywhere.
You're super flexible. That's the point that got me. I mentioned freedom. So the bike for me was a way to travel with so much freedom and flexibility, because you can just control, you know, where you want to go. You have everything on the bike itself, and
Well, everything
you need. Everything you don't need much.
You had 2 t-shirts, 3 t-shirts.
I had 3 t-shirts, and it was more than enough.
Okay, so that gets us into the logistics of living 60 days on the road.
Okay, so yeah, and I'm speaking with retrospect now, because I had an idea before, but obviously not as much as, you know, while I was writing and figuring out, let alone now that I finished. And like now that I think back, I'm surprised by how many things I actually had right, in the sense of, oh, this is how it's going to look.
Mhm.
But also so many things that I had no clue what was waiting for me. And in terms of logistics, I had my tent and my sleeping bag. So for me, that was the backup plan. I knew every day I can, you know,
Worst case scenario, you just leave.
it's not a worst case scenario. Sure, if I don't,
No, it's not a terrible scenario, but it's a worst case scenario.
no, not really, because my intention was to sleep out and about, you know, to find like nice spots to, I don't know, chill point on the beach, or find a little mountain. And that's what I was envisioning. Imagine just like on this, you know, top of a mountain, waiting for the sun to come up in the morning, and you get out your tent and you're completely by yourself with, I don't know, with the sun coming out, sunrise, a bit of food, everything you eat becomes
It's romanticized, but
more tasty. It's not romanticized. It was romantic with myself, but it was romantic.
alone,
Alone.
on your own.
Yeah. But the point is, I had my sleeping equipment, let's say, and I knew that that can serve me no matter what. So I'm not gonna, I'm not homeless. But the idea of this trip was not to be homeless. Like my gear was quite all right, and not luxury, but I was very comfortable. And I mean, relatively speaking,
Yeah, comfort for you. Comfort for
exactly,
you not the same as comfort for someone else.
yeah. But I had I had my backup plan for every day, which was my also first plan most of the days. And then in terms of food, we're still in Europe, so I didn't have to carry tons amount of food for days ahead. Before I was watching YouTube videos and like reading different blogs of people that have done something similar on a bike. And if, for example, you're doing it in Africa, then you might need more spares or more capacity to carry food for a few days, like ahead, as opposed to in Europe, you still, especially Western Europe, quite civilized and more like densely populated areas. So I didn't
Yeah.
need that much planning. I just passed through supermarkets and got whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
had.
guess you crossed 1 or 2 towns per day at least,
Yeah, I would
and
say so.
then
Until I got into the Balkans and it was a bit more
slowly spread out.
spread out, yeah, scattered. But in terms of food, I just enjoyed Mercadona as long as I could in Spain.
Yeah,
So I did
that was not
Catalonia.
that long though.
Not that long, but I still had. Actually, it's an interesting point because I've been living here for 4 years. So I remember when I started, I almost had FOMO in Catalonia of going to this town and then going, doing a little detour and going into another town. And so I ended up double the time of what I actually needed, let's say,
in
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 Catalonia.
Spain. Yeah,
Yeah, in Spain, because I wanted to explore the place where I've been living for the past four
yeah.
years. And except for Barcelona, I didn't know Catalonia. So it was actually a really nice start. Um, and then yeah, anyways, food was not the issue. I cooked for myself. I bought
Sleep was not an issue.
yeah.
Food was not an issue. What were the difficult aspects of, because you cannot tell me that there was not difficult parts to it.
I don't know. The whole thing was extremely difficult. Mind you, I came back after the 2 months and a bit. It took me 70 days. I came back and I needed like a series of massage therapy sessions to recover because I was so in pain and tight
Stiff.
and stiff and imagine like just for 2 months every day, all like everything I was doing is just pedaling, crunched over. You get super tight, your core gets tight, your thighs get tight. I couldn't even. By the time I came back, I wasn't able to sprint, um, or like to jump. It's like imagine finish, the feeling when you finish.
A marathon,
No,
but like times 100.
no, not a marathon. Like a simple set of squats. You know, you're feeling sore kind of, and you feel that lactic acid. So just that, it was for 2 months.
Yeah.
Um, so physically it was definitely a challenge. And the thing is, I started with, I'm going to travel. It's my way of seeing Europe.
Mhm.
That was my goal. My goal was to see Europe a bit more, to get to know different cultures in Europe. I knew that I was going to meet people on the way. I just didn't expect that it was going to be such, special human connections and human experiences, which
Yeah.
is, we'll speak about that too. Um, but yeah, so I was saying, I started thinking I'm going to travel. It shouldn't be that difficult physically. But then I realized, okay, I want to get to Greece. And it took more than I thought, in the sense of, okay, that means every day almost I need to pedal about 70, 80 kilometers. And there was a lot more ups and downs in hill wise. And I thought,
the ups took long and the downs went by fast.
of course, 80% of the time you're going up. 80% of the time you're climbing, and
In the end, you started sea level, you ended sea level,
yeah,
but you spend 40%, like 80% more time going
going up.
uphill,
Yeah.
uphill anyways, which is,
But it's so worth the downhill. It's so worth the flying down, like with the window in your face and like
it's
super nice views.
it's cool. It's interesting. I think in life, it's very relatable to life.
Mm.
In the end, life, I think 80% of it is hard work and 20% of it is fun that you get to enjoy thanks to that hard work.
Okay, cool. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, it's similar.
Because I think if we focus too much on like, oh, this is like, if everything is supposed to be fun, what are you what makes you deserve the fun, you know?
Mm. Of course, you appreciate it for the fun when you know you've worked for it, or I mean,
But it's frustrating that it only lasts 20% of the time.
yes, but you learn. I at some point I learned to enjoy
The 20%.
the uphills as well. No, the 20%. The going down I was enjoying all the time, but going up, it's like fuck, another mountain. At some point I used to look, sometimes you're just pedaling and pedaling and pedaling, and you suddenly look up and you see what you still have to go, and you're like, fucking hell. And sometimes you drop the bike. You're like, okay, fuck this. Like, I remember. Anyway, you're by yourself. You're by yourself, and I remember at some point just getting off the bike, swearing as much as I can, screaming to the air, and just saying fuck it. And
Why the fuck am I doing this?
it's also part of the fun with yourself. I know nobody's hearing me, but I'm just speaking to myself because that's what I have at the moment. And in the end, you get back on after you throw the bike on the floor, you pick it up, get back on, and continue. But no, you learn to enjoy the way up as well. It's, I don't know, the adrenaline that you get from, at least for me, from the cycling aspect of it is made it fun sometimes, even the way up.
Cool. And
But challenges, because we spoke physically. But what I noticed, during those 2 months is that all my challenges were related to the basics, of life.
Mhm.
If I woke up and it was a sunny day and the weather was good, that almost always equaled a relatively good day. If I woke up and it's raining, and it was raining during the night, so now my tent is wet, all my logistics are wet, and I start pedaling, in the rain, or it starts raining while you're pedaling, and it's cold, then your day is not as good. Like, the main elements that impacted whether I'm having a good day or not is
The weather.
Mama Earth. Like, what's the weather?
Earth.
Yeah, what's the weather? Do I have, when's the next food stop? Um, and of course the, like, whoever you meet on the road. But I think the weather was the main challenge.
Okay. And those are the challenges on like the physical, the world around you. What about the world within? Did
What
you
I
ever feel alone? I think it's not an extreme adventure as some people do embark sometimes. The other day I was hearing the story of this guy that went all the way from Portugal to Panama rowing alone,
Okay.
solo. So it's not that level of solitude, but
Yeah, because
you do spend a lot of time with your own thoughts.
oh, I was most of the time with my own thoughts. But again, speaking of challenges before the trip, my main concern, and I think my main thought of, oh, do I really want to go to this, or, like I said, should I just go to Brazil and mess around for a bit and visit some friends, whatever, was, do I want to be that much time alone? And that was my main concern, and it ended up, I don't know, not even being like
It didn't register as a difficulty.
exact. Well, it was difficult, but more than difficult, it became interesting. I wasn't going crazy out of, oh, I'm alone so much, like I'm actually bored,
Mhm.
because you get almost into a meditative flow when you're just biking, 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 biking. And, the view changes and the adrenaline, in the end, you're doing a certain type of physical activity. And before you notice, it's been 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours. And I could bike at a time 3 hours before stopping, and you realize you're just running thoughts, but you're not bored.
Did you get to know yourself better?
Oh, 100%. I don't know to point exactly at what, but it's like an implicit process that I felt like I was going with myself. Nothing that changed my life in the sense of like, oh my God, I became a different person. Like,
Yeah,
no,
not a life-changing realization.
not a life-changing realization, but definitely a life-changing. I think it was a life-changing experience.
As a whole.
100%. Yes. Not because I left one person and came back another, but just because even now it's been 3 months after, and I still every day think about it, because I had the best time of my life and I felt so alive. And once you get that feeling of liveliness And I mean, I'm a happy person in general, you know, I'm usually in a good mood, and I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty chill, but it's not in my life before that was not full of life, you know? But I think this is the time where I felt most alive than any other period of my life before. It's the experience that gave me the most liveliness and joy more than anything that I've felt before. Um, and having experienced that, there's no way back, you know? So you always have that point of reference, and you know to what extent of liveliness you can get. And in that sense, you stay, like, it stays with you, you know? And that's something, again, not life changing, but definitely changes the way you see life.
Also, I think you had a lot of experiences that were, I would disagree. Like from the conversations we had when you were traveling,
Mhm.
I think you did have some life changing realizations that you just are not aware of because
Like
you were,
what?
I don't know, maybe you can tell people a little bit about all of the insane experiences you had with some like extremely kind human beings.
Yeah,
And I think, as you told me, it was a third person realization to myself. Like the world is full of kind and loving human beings.
yeah,
And sometimes I think because we're so surrounded by news, and usually bad news sell better,
yeah.
we lose track of the fact that human beings are, most of us,
Inherently,
good and kind.
yeah. Bro, I can speak, but I can speak about it forever. So, like, you know, I'll try to hold my horses, but you got to stop me when,
Yeah, 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 for sure. Go
because,
for it.
and I'm super passionate about it as well, because, well, I'm passionate about this whole thing because it makes me, I don't know, it like awakens something within me. Um, and like I said, I still think about it every day, but specifically about the human aspect, human relations aspect of this trip. I can speak forever because I had like hands, you know, dozens of different experiences. And also because, like you said, people ask me all the time also, like, oh, how did you do this? And how did you trust that person? And, you know, maybe I'll give a background of
Yeah, tell us a few stories.
before a few stories. So I had my tent again. We go back to that tent, but half of the days I didn't count specific, you know, I didn't count accurately, but I would say half of the days I slept outdoors, and half of the days I slept at people's houses.
On their couch, in a bed, in a
Whether
spare,
it's on their couch, in their bed,
not in their bed, in a spare bed.
usually, or in their garden with my tent, you know? Um, and disclaimer, it's not that I was walking around asking people like, "Hey, can I crush, you know, at your place?" No, obviously that would be also a bit creepy. Except for a few times that, you know, I felt comfortable enough. We already had some sort of interaction. And I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I actually, you know, pitch my tent here?" But most of the time people invite you in. But that first things first, it goes back to the loneliness question, because I was alone a lot of the time. And except for, you know, music, podcasts, I was calling a shitload of people. Like I was calling everyone I know, you know. My mom was basically part of the trip because I was calling her for an hour and a half every day. And we just like, I cycle with her in the background. Sometimes she wouldn't even be saying anything. I would be, you know, I would just be singing to myself. And then after 15 minutes, like, you still there? And she's like, "Ah, yeah." She would do whatever she's doing at
That's so
home.
cute.
Yeah. But so I was distracting myself. Don't get me wrong. I was not only with my thoughts. I was speaking with a lot of people, listening to podcasts, music, etc. And then a lot with my thoughts. But having, you know, putting all that aside, I spent quite a lot of time with people. And I think maybe in Bosnia, there was like 2, 3 days that I was actually by myself because I had one long road of like 200 kilometers with nothing around pretty much. And so I slept, you know, woke up, slept, woke up, and it was mainly by myself. But for the most part, every day I met someone else. Every day I met, you know, a different local. Every day I met someone that would keep you company for part of the day. And a lot of those people end up just, you know, "Hey, do you wanna, what are you doing?" A scenario from, you know, from light to heavy. But I'm in France, in this town that I cannot recall the name, very small town, having a shawarma for dinner. Okay.
So shawarma's always save the day.
Save the day. I mean, and after writing so much, you know, sometimes sure I'll go to the supermarket and get something, but you want something satisfying, you know? Now you go into this town, the shawarma, it's like actually specific that place specifically. I was riding within the town and there's nothing around. And then this car stops and I ask him like, hey, do you know a place to eat? He's like, follow me. And I'm just riding after him and he takes me to the shawarma. But then he left. I was eating there. And then this French couple comes and sit down. And the thing is, people see the bike and then they're like, oh, what are you doing? Because maybe we can put like,
It's also
photo.
it's not a traditional bike. It was a bike with like
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe you
weird.
should put like a photo or something, but you don't see every day a bike with a bunch of random bags around it. And so people is like, immediately it raises, you know, questions and, hey, what are you doing? Like, what's that? Where are you going? Where did you come from? Um, and then you start, you know, oh no, I'm doing this trip. I came now from this town, whatever.
I'm going tomorrow
Where are you going? And
yeah,
it's like, tomorrow I'm going there. No, where are you going in the end? Oh, I'm aiming to get to the
to
Balkans.
Montenegro.
Yeah, to Montenegro, to Greece eventually. And then obviously it's very easy to spark conversations, you know, and it's very relatable.
Yeah, it
Like,
makes people curious as well.
exactly. And so we start speaking, and at some point they're like, where are you going to sleep tonight? And I had planned to sleep in the football pitch in that small town. For me, it was a dream. Imagine like a huge piece of grass, you know, completely flat. I can envision myself playing there. You know, if I only had a ball, it would be perfect. I did have that in Slovenia. And I tell them, yeah, I want to sleep in this. I'm probably just gonna, you know, pitch my tent in that football field. And they're like, do you want to come sleep at our place? And he kind of looks at the guy said it, and he kind of looks at his wife just to get her, you know,
Approval,
silent approval confirmation. And she looks at him kind of like, are you sure?
Are you sure we're gonna do this? This is a stranger.
Like, yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, let's go. and we end up vibing. And then they're like, wait, but you know what? Before we go to our place, we're gonna go to this
Birthday party.
No, yeah, it was not birthday. It was a wine bar just to grab a drink. We want to show you this specific French drink with anise, right?
Yeah.
And so we go to that place, and it turned out to be a massive karaoke party, you know. And we spent 2 hours there, and then got to their place completely drunk, like completely like messed up. Mind you, they're like 40 years old, 2 kids at home.
That's so fun.
Yeah, and we get to their place. You know, the guy's like kind of tumbling around, and he's like, "Bro, this is your room. Just go up. You've got a towel in the bathroom." And I just, you know, ended up staying there and leaving the next morning. Had a quick coffee with them and left. And that's like a light story. And it happened.
I love the one of the kid that lets you sleep in it. That sounds really wrong, but like
the kid that let you sleep in his bed.
yeah, but tell it so that you save yourself and you're not canceled.
Okay. I would very easily be canceled for some things, but no, that was actually a relatively
Also light.
light in the sense that, okay, background, I'm in Slovenia and I'm right before arriving to Ljubljana, the capital. Had a beautiful day of riding. I know you wanted to ask me as well, what was my favorite country, so we can speak about it later, but spoiler, Slovenia. And I knew that I knew that I don't want to sleep inside Ljubljana because mess. I tried, you know, I wanted for the cultural experience to pass through big cities, but I avoided sleeping in them unless I booked a hostel or something in advance.
Yeah.
Like in Montpellier, for example, in France. And then, you know, you arrive and you know you have a place to be in. But I was still 20 kilometers, maybe an hour and a half before Ljubljana, and it was getting dark. And I'm passing through this, again, it's all small towns, right? And I suddenly see this guy doing his garden, you know, working his garden, whatever. And I ask him like, hey, and genuine question. It's not that I was trying to get him to invite me. I asked him, do you know maybe a place where I could, you know, stay for the night?
Take a hostel.
I'm doing this trip. Obviously, again, they're scanning my bike with the eyes, like what kind of, what's wrong with you? What are you doing?
What's going on? Yeah.
And I'm doing this trip, and I'm looking for a place for tonight. I'm on my way to Croatia and Bosnia. Like, you know, in 5 days I should be in Bosnia. And for tonight, I'm looking for a place before I reach Ljubljana. And he's like, you know what? Actually, you have this big parking space for vans 2 kilometers down the road, and you can probably just go stay there. And while he's saying that, there's this guy. yeah, the guy, the neighbor, his neighbor, which turns out to be a good friend of his, comes down and um and he taps on his shoulder and he goes like, "What's happening here? I heard something about tent. I heard something bike. I wanted to, come down. I don't know. I triggered something in my head. Do you need a place to sleep?" I didn't say a word. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you looking? You need a place to sleep." But you're saying it with like a happy, smile. And I'm like, I don't know. He actually just told me about this caravan parking spot. And he's like, "No, no, no. Come to my garden. Come to my garden. You can stay at mine." And they speak English. In that sense, that's what I meant, that it was kind of light, because it was still Slovenia. The more I got down in the Balkans, Bosnia, Montenegro, it's like
Harder.
less westernized in that sense,
Mhm.
less English speaking. He was speaking English. It was a nice, town, nice house. But he was calling me over. Yeah, come. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. If you say. 10 minutes after, I'm sitting in his garden with his friend, having a beer, and the friend is like, "Bro, you fucked me. Like, I sent him to the parking lot. Then you come,
And you
right after you come and be the nice guys,
one
like,
over, yeah.
yeah, come sleep in my garden. Now I look like a piece of shit." But we ended up having, some beers in their garden. Super cool guys. And then the wife of this guy comes home and she's like, "Welcome. We're gonna have dinner." And then the kids come back home, and they had an 11 years old kid, and and he's like, "Yeah, let's play the video game. Like, do you play FIFA or do you play 2K?" And 1 hour after, I'm playing PlayStation with him. 2 hours after, we're having dinner in their lovely place. 3 hours after, we're watching a movie. And I'm like, I remember sitting, on one of those long couches with my feet on it, um, and feeling super at home. And then what was the last? Okay, the kid.
Yeah.
At some point, initially I was supposed to sleep in the garden, and then at some point the mom tells me like, "No, go sleep in his room."
No, but I think what you told me initially was that the kid told you, "You sleep in my room.
Yeah,
I'll sleep in
the mom said like, and I was like, "No, don't worry. Like, of course I'm gonna sleep in the garden." And then the kid comes and he's like, and he spoke better English than both parents. And he comes and he's like, "No, no, take my room. It's okay for me. It's an excuse to sleep on the sofa so I can watch TV all night." And then the mom looks at him and is like, "You bastard." But then he gave me his room, and I ended up, staying there. And he did the bed and everything. And it doesn't sound like that special, but you think about the fact that,
You met these people
3 hours later, I was riding on my way to Ljubljana, and this guy comes around and gets me in. His wife comes, the kid comes. They had another daughter as well. And before you notice, we're all having dinner together, and they just fully, take me in. And I'm in touch with the guy until today. And no, it's for real. Every couple, months, he still texts me like, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, how's Madrid? Blah, blah, blah. When do you come back to Slovenia?" And he texted me last month in December before Christmas, just to say like, Happy New Year, Happy Christmas. And I don't know, it's special because within you know someone for 12 hours, but you're fully present there with them. They open their hearts and their home to you. And for me, I had to leave the next morning. I had to continue my journey. And imagine it's like this classic scenario when you get on the bike and you move on, and the whole family is standing and like waving away to you. And
as if you had known each other for 15 years.
yeah, for like at least 2 weeks. And
But it's crazy. I think it's a matter. I think vulnerability makes it important. It's important in those situations.
mm,
In the end, I think they put themselves in a vulnerable position by inviting a stranger to sleep in
right,
their house. You also, to some extent, put yourself in a vulnerable position by like being there with us completely like family of strangers.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, obviously, you can have your healthy judgment, right?
yes, no, definitely. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think it's essential in human connection to be vulnerable.
It's vulnerability with trust.
So it's you can have exactly the same situation that you just described, and I'm sure you did, with other families that are a bit more like, yeah, whatever, like sleep in the garden or like even sleep in the guest bedroom,
Mm,
but they don't open up to you in the same way that this other family did. And when you leave, it's a completely different feeling.
mhm.
I'm not saying when you left you necessarily had like a melancholic feeling, but you definitely didn't have it in the other situation where it was just like completely not transactional, but just like still kindness, just
Yeah,
no vulnerability attached to that kindness.
yeah. But you'd be surprised because most of my those type of experiences ended up being very, very intimate, or like social, and that you actually get to know the people, the family, the person, whoever it is. And of course, I had a few times as well where it was getting dark and I needed a place to stay. But let's say it's illegal to camp, or if you just put your tents, someone might pass and be like, you're not meant to be here. So you just ask someone out of politeness, and you're like, hey, can I leave my tent here? And they would tell you yes, bring you maybe a cup of milk, bring you some cookies, and you stay for the night, you leave the next morning, and that's it. Those happened as well, but for the vast majority of the times, it became somehow special. Now, like I said, you can have your healthy, dose of judgment to decide whether or not you feel comfortable in a place. Now, the thing is, I'm perhaps an exception in that sense, but I don't I don't know why I don't have the fear, or I never felt uncomfortable or afraid. Like, you can put me in someone's house and I'll sleep perfectly fine without any worry that something's gonna happen,
Yeah.
during the night. And people, I got these
But
questions a lot.
it
Like,
depends on whose house you're in. Well,
of course, but obviously, I mean,
that's where the judgment comes in.
maybe for a 20-something years old guy, it's easier, than for, I don't know, for a girl, for example, of course. But um, I think it's a matter of trusting, and I didn't have a problem trusting people. And I think once you trust them, and if you come with like a smile and you come with the right approach, if you're just naturally yourself, I don't know. I ended up connecting with so many people.
You told me during the trip, like when you smile to life, life smiles back at you.
I think that's one of my main conclusions. It's like this girl from the TV, right? Like, that told me by the end of the interview, she was like,
From which TV?
so there was this kind of news channel in Israel that was tagging along and following my trip. So every couple of weeks they would, put me on
On the news.
on one of the shows and follow up, like, hey, where are you now? Like, tell us a bit about the last 2 weeks. What have you been up to? It was kind of, documenting my journey for them. So it was like a mini series of a few episodes of like 5 minutes each.
Never in the wild.
They called it around Europe on
On a bike.
around Europe, cycling Europe, or around Europe in 80 days or something like that.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it was 70 days, but but it was nice because for me, it was a way of kind of having some sort of documentation other than what I, document myself. Anyhow, we vibed, me and that presenter, right? And at some point she said, like, you look like someone that smiles to the world. I was like, thank you. But let me tell you, like, when you smile to the world smiles back at you. And she said it so kind of by the way, but for me, it's sick. It was quite in the beginning of the trip. I was still in France. And for me, it's sick. And I carried it like throughout the whole trip. And I realized that it's so true. When you smile, like, people smile back at you. And I also felt very privileged to be able to give those people that opened their hearts and houses for me the experience, the good experience, because from their side, like you said, they could easily also be like, oh, we're not going to let this stranger in. Like, you never know how it's going to, end up, or what his intentions are, or people can be a bit hesitant, right? And for me to be able to give them the good experiences, in the sense of, you let me in and it turned out so nice for both of us. I felt like it's almost my role, or
Your duty.
my duty as well.
You had a responsibility to make them happy
Yes,
with your presence.
of course. It didn't mean that I need to force anything, or it didn't mean that I was actively thinking, oh, how am I going to behave to make them feel good? No, but the fact that I could provide them a positive experience after letting a stranger into their house felt special, because potentially that cycles through, that cycles around the world, because maybe they have another interaction like that with someone, and then they're less hesitant, or they remember our experience. And I just feel like it, runs through the world, and maybe like a tiny bit of positiveness.
But yeah, I think in the end, I lived with Pia. You know Pia. Pia was my host mom here in Madrid for 3 years.
Yeah.
Supposed to be 6 months when I first moved into the city. And she just had like a very good initial experience with this one Italian girl that she hosted. And
she was like, why not?
Yeah, why not continue with this? And then ever since she started that, she's had one or two like relatively awkward experiences with some students that she's hosted. But as a whole, I guess that good experience that she had initially led to her opening the doors of her house to students up from all over the world. And
Yeah.
and I think sometimes we underestimate the impact we have on people.
Because it's not exponential. How do you call it? Like it's a domino effect. Kind of.
Yeah, you sometimes you especially when you're having an interaction that is so unusual with someone. Okay, sure, if you're like you're going to drink a coffee in a coffee shop, maybe your interaction is not going to weigh as much as the interactions you had with these people, because it's a very common everyday
Yeah.
interaction that the barista would have with a customer. But when we need to be aware of, like, if we're being, let's say, if I'm the first Colombian that someone meets,
Yeah, exactly. You're an ambassador.
I'm representing my whole country.
Yeah.
And if people are like, oh, he's Colombian, like maybe I should be beware of him, like Colombians, drugs, you know?
Narcos.
Narcos, Pablo Escobar.
Okay.
But no, in the end, it's my duty to show them Colombians can be quite nice. And if I manage to do that, the next time a person meets a Colombian, so that's the second Colombian that they meet, they're gonna be like, they're not gonna
They
think
have a
about Pablo
preference.
Escobar. They're gonna think about Nico.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and that actually relates a lot to my trip as well, because it was still even before the war was finished, right? I mean, not that now Israel's name is that much better, but like the war is still going on, and with the whole, people like I know my friends here in Madrid, or family friends from Israel that go abroad, people are afraid to say that they're Israelis because they, maybe it will raise an eyebrow. And me, imagine being in these, again, I didn't see it as vulnerable situations, but for some others, it would look like that. Like I'm putting my my safety in the hands of others.
Had experience as well, though.
Yeah, we can touch on it in a second.
I want to delve into the not so fun aspects of it as well.
Okay.
But whatever, we'll get into it.
But what I was saying is that throughout the whole thing, I said that I'm from Israel, and I don't know, I didn't have a bad experience with it, I can't remember what was my original point bringing it up, but
we were just
say that
speaking
Colombian.
we're speaking about, like, we were like the first interaction we have with somebody,
Yeah,
especially when it's an uncommon interaction, is very relevant.
yeah, and so for me, it's I almost felt also like I'm, not an ambassador, but you see, there's like fucking cool Israeli people, like all you see on the news or whatever, it's bullshit. But surprisingly, none of those people that I interacted with throughout the trip even had like a what do you call it? Like
Preconception.
Yeah, preconception, prejudgment. Maybe it's because also I was outside the big cities, and literally like most of the people that I interacted with were farmers, growing their apples and and very simple, just pure, like good-hearted people,
Yeah.
But then going into a less conventional story, let's say, like the one that I just told in Slovenia, just because I think maybe if I need to choose one story that reflects the kindness of the people that I met along the way and how inherently good people are. Of course, there's so much shit going on as well, and so much like evilness and conflict, war, whatnot. But this guy in Bosnia, I crossed from Croatia to Bosnia. I passed the first big city, which is called Bihać, and it was getting. And again, most days I didn't know where I'm going to sleep. I didn't plan. I just arrived at 4, 5, 6 p.m. Sun starts to go down, and then I'm like, okay, because if you plan it, usually it doesn't work anyways. So you just stay, open mind, like open, flexible, and agile, and you figure it on the go. So it's 5 p.m. and I'm starting to look for my next, sleeping spot. And I get to this town, and I'm like, okay, here I'm gonna find a place. But turns out Bosnia is full of wild dogs. I knew it was a thing before, but I didn't understand the extent to which it actually can be dangerous. Speaking of danger, like if anything, it's not the people, it was the dogs. And you cannot sleep outside just like that. I couldn't just put my tent and hope the night would pass.
Because a dog would.
No, they would eat my tent. Like, again, I cannot go into all the details of this trip, but like I had my shoes be bitten by dogs, while I'm riding on the bike. You think you can chase them out, but you can't. And
They're fast.
They're fucking fast.
And they're angry.
And they're not angry. They're just stupid. And Bosnian dogs are a different breed, and they just jump on your. The guy beat my back, like one day on the back of my saddle. Anyhow, I couldn't just sleep there. That's my point. And I was like, oh shit, where do I sleep tonight? And it's 6 p.m. 6:30, 7 p.m., 7:30, and sun is already, about to disappear. And I still don't know. And looking during when it's dark is a pain in the ass. Speaking of challenges, looking for a place to sleep when it's dark, one of the hardest things.
I think it's a matter of time constraint, but also the mental the mental difficulty of having to do it
in the dark
with a time constraint as well.
Yeah.
And like if you arrive to a stranger's place and it's dark and you're like, can I sleep here?
No,
it seems a bit more like scary movie,
course.
like
Not scary movie. It's more sketchy.
yeah.
Everything just brings like other stories. I'm trying to focus. But anyhow, I'm in this town and I cannot sleep because dogs will eat your tent.
So you have to find a place to sleep. Yeah.
And I'm speaking with people. I'm speaking with people, asking them. None of them speak English. Like small town, middle of Bosnia, close to the border with Croatia. And some of them understood me, but didn't really. Again, I'm speaking about a lot of kindness and people that hosted me and stuff. But imagine conversion rate, like in this most not conversion rate, but most people you speak with, and you ask them generally, like, where do you think would be a good place to put my tent? They're like, I don't know, or like try there, but not actual help. They try to be helpful, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I wouldn't know if someone asked
Exactly.
me where do I put a tent.
Yeah, go to the Tiro.
Yes.
The Tiro is closed. I don't know. Go to Casa de Campo. Good luck.
Yeah.
And so until I stop this car. This car comes down, from one of the roads from the mountains, and I was like, "Hey, take your window down," And he opens the window, and he doesn't speak a word of English. And I tried to explain to him, and nothing. And I opened ChatGPT, and I write quickly, "Hey, I'm doing this trip. Like, I'm on my way to the south of Bosnia, whatever, Montenegro. Today I'm here, and I'm looking for a place to sleep. It's a bit hard with all the dogs. And do you know where I could put my tent?" And he sees my message. Man is like 50 something years old. And he takes down, the glasses a bit. He looks at it like that for a few seconds. And then he's like, "Oh, okay." And then we start like communicating sign language. And he does, "Okay," like this. And then he does like this. I was like, "What's happening? What are you doing?" And he just turns around the car and starts going up the hill from where he came. And I look at him and I'm not sure, like, do you want me to follow you or did you just run away? And he stops the car and he pulls his hands and he does like, come.
Okay.
So I started riding after him, and
I hope you have your phone.
No, I'm with my phone, but uphill, and he's driving like 30, 40 kilometers per hour. And I'm like, "Bro, you expect me to keep up with your pace?" And I'm just like burning my quads up, because I'm hoping at least
it's the end of the day.
It's going to lead something, to something good so I can burn all my remaining energy. And for 5 minutes, we're going up the hill and I'm like, and we get to a place in the end, to like a spot. And he points to the house and he's like, "Yeah, here," and takes my bike and he's like, I'm translating the sign language, but basically, "Put your bike here, come inside." And I have a whole video of that. I think you saw it. He just starts giving me a tour in his house in Bosnian language. And I don't understand anything. And he opens his bedroom and he says, "Here," points at the bed, opens the bathroom, tells me like with his hands he can take a shower. And I'm super overwhelmed. And I'm like, "Oh, wow. Like, this is so nice." But the peak was that he turned out. I didn't understand it at the moment. But he told me like, "Yeah, you stay here and I'm going to go to work." I didn't understand where he was going, but he's like, "I'm going to leave. I'm going to drive." Turns out he's a taxi driver. "I'm going to drive, but you stay here.
And you sleep here and shower and it's fine.
And I'll come at some point." And it was a Wednesday. It was Champions League. There was Liverpool playing, no, there was PSG playing Real Madrid. I can't remember. There was PSG game. PSG Liverpool, I think. And he turns on the TV and he's like, "Yeah, football." Because I told him like, "Today Champions League." And he goes to the TV. He understood Champions League. And he goes to the TV and he like puts it on the sports channel. Then he just leaves, disappears. And I'm there. Again, retrospectively, I also translated the video with Milica, with our Montenegrin friends, both same language. And
so you sent it to her.
Yeah, and we were cracking up about the translation. But at the time, I did not know he's a taxi driver. I did not know he's telling me, "You stay here. I'm going to go work. I'll come back later tonight." And so I'm just sitting there now in his very, very modest apartment, like very simple. but I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I'm here and I'll watch the game and I'll go to sleep. And in the middle of the night, I wake up to pee and I go to the bathroom and I see the guy on the sofa. He had come back from work at whatever time it was.
Some hours ago, some minutes ago. I
Yeah,
don't know.
you don't know. And he's just sleeping on the sofa. And then I realize man gave me his room, like his bedroom, and now he's like he's the age of my dad, you know. It's not like a 20 something 30 years old guy that would be like, yeah, take my bed out of hospitality manners. He's the age of my dad and he gave me his bed. I was like,
Mind blown.
I'm still mind blown.
Yeah, I'm mind blown.
I'm still like, how, why? I don't know. I want to go back like to
How came?
spend the day with him. I don't know. It's just it honestly it gets you. It got me very. It gets you emotional. It gets you like, holy shit! Like this is the most pure form of kindness. You know, someone he picked me up from the street, brought me to his house, gave me a tour in Bosnian, opened the TV, left,
Put the Champions League on.
and put the
Important.
a very important detail that actually made my day, but very important detail. Left and came back, and then yeah, it turns out he gave me his room and he's sleeping on the couch. In the morning, I spent the morning with him, had a coffee with him, and he shows me all translated by ChatGPT. He shows me his like pension, you know, papers. He was telling me like how much he makes from pension, whatever. And then all his medical documents turned out he has like a bunch of back problems, a bunch of like, you know, health issues. And yet he gave me his bed. So I was like, what the fuck? And and yeah, just such simple life as well. Like his neighbor lives next to him and all they do all day, you know, all they do during the day is just he doesn't work except for some taxi, you know, on the side, taxi shifts on the side. And they just, you know, sit outside, smoke, stare at the sky, and like let the day pass. And at some point at midday, I had to leave. And again, it's like for him, he didn't want me to leave. He did. If I was such, you know, for him, it was like, oh, this guy giving me company, or I don't know, it's so nice to have someone at home. And he didn't want me to leave. And I remember like, ciao, you know, looking at him, getting on my bike. It's almost like a surreal situation. And he's there with the neighbor waving at you like that. And he just went down the hill where he took me up. We just went it all down and continued my day. And it's like, yeah, every day is just so full of.
It speaks a lot to loneliness, though.
Yeah, also.
It's sad. Like it makes me like it's a beautiful story, but it makes me sad to think that there's people that live like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to pity them in the sense that they live very simple, but they derive a lot of happiness.
I don't mind. I don't mind the simpleness. I just mind like
the loneliness. Yeah,
loneliness. The aspect of like this guy doesn't seem like had a wife.
has he had a wife and he has 2 kids and they just don't live there.
Oh,
So even more like you brought it up, but actually it's spot on because specifically in his case, like he has a family, they just don't live there. They're divorced and the kids live with the mom, and then he's, you know, there. But super sweet guy, like super, like what a man.
what was the toughest part? Maybe a good story. Difficult moment.
Let me think.
You had to go to the hospital one day.
Yeah, I don't want it to sound as if
Dramatic.
no, as if I was having, you know, this trip was like it was the best thing I've ever done. But it's not that every day was the best time I've ever had.
Yeah, I know you had rough days. We spoke on the phone.
Yeah, some days you don't want to ride. Some days you're in pain, and again, once a week I took a rest day. Usually it was to fix the bike and do some, you know, logistics. But some days you don't want to bike, you don't want to cycle, and you need to because I did put, you know, set as a goal also to get to Montenegro, and I had a rough calculation of the days and how much I need to ride per day. It ended up being Greece in the end because I did have, you know, some spare time, so I continued. And friends that were waiting for me there, so I was like, I had the commitment, you know, to get there. But so it was a challenge as well in the sense of I had a distance I needed to cover. So not every day I wanted to ride, but I did, and not always it was the most fun, you know. And some days and some moments were much harder than others. Anyways, all to say that it wasn't like all, you know, what do you call it, roses and
rainbows,
rainbow, whatever the expression is, but
flowers and rainbows.
Yeah. During the whole, you know, those entire 70 days. But I think one very frustrating situation that I had was I have a few, but they mostly have to do with bike braking, rain, cold. You know, my bike is cracking and breaking down, and I don't have any mechanics, any nearby. It's raining and it's wet and it's cold. And so one that comes up to mind was in France. I I had got into this town called Arles, and I was about to sleep that day at a host, which I had in advance, like whatever it is, like this couch surfing app just for bikes. And I had this
Bike surfing, no?
No, it's called the Warm Showers, actually.
Warm showers,
Yeah.
that's disturbing.
It's very, very.
It seems like a dating app that like you just
Didn't
want him
work.
done, bring him out.
No, it was. It could turn into that. I heard a lot of stories.
Okay.
It didn't happen to me, but it's a very nice community-based app. People, cyclists that host other cyclists. And so this guy was about to host me in this town outside of Arles, which is quite a larger city in France, not very large, but more known. And this town was called Fontvieille, and it was 1 hour from Arles. And when I got to Arles, it started raining like crazy. And I think it was the first time that it was raining for me during the trip. And so I was still like, oh, do I ride in the rain? Do I not? Like, I wasn't very, I wasn't fancying it that much. So I waited, and then it got dark. And at some point I said, okay, this guy's waiting for me, but he wasn't answering me from the day before, the morning of. So I wasn't even sure if he's gonna, wait for me there or not. And his house was in the like middle of the mountains, like completely isolated of the town itself. And I had 1 hour to ride to get there. And it was just pouring rain, and I was all wet. I was cold, and I didn't know if I'm arriving to a place where I'm going to sleep. So that like builds a bit of, frustration. And with all the like, okay, it's an adventure, and I'm staying like flexible. Worst case, I've got my tent, I've got my stuff, and I'll, pitch it somewhere and sleep. Like, it's not the best feeling where you don't know where you're gonna sleep, and it's wet and raining and muddy and everything. I fell. Obviously, it was like my first time riding the rain. I slid with my bike at some point. So again, I was like, fuck it, like, what am I doing?
Why? Why
am I doing? You look up and you're like
I'm doing this for fun.
This was supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm supposed to be traveling, and it's 9 p.m. at that point. I still got an hour ride. At this point, it's a road. Like, I cannot just go right or left and put my tent there. I need to find a proper place at least to put my tent, And I'm just like, what am I doing? And whatever, you get back on the bike, and okay, that's the situation right now. So I continue riding. My phone shut down. I need to go to the next town, charge my phone, turn it back on. So, because this guy like was in really isolated, area of the mountains, and I needed to know how to get there. So I needed my GPS, because my Garmin couldn't, I couldn't
Figure it out.
Yeah, I couldn't navigate with my bike Garmin. I needed my phone's GPS. And long story short, I get there after, battling the rain in the mountain for like an hour and a half, and it's 10 p.m. And I know, like, okay, the guy hasn't answered me since 11 a.m. today. I don't even know who it is or what to expect. The only thing I know is how to get to his house, because he sent me detailed descriptions. I get to this, almost witch house in the middle of the mountain that matches the description that the guy gave me. And I knock on the door, and this guy comes out. Turns out he's like 60 years old, and he's screaming at me. Pissed, like extremely pissed.
Pissed out of his mind.
Who do you think you are? What am I? Your hotel? Like, what do you think coming out this hour? Where were you? I was waiting for you with dinner at 7 p.m. sitting on the table. I was like, wait, but hold yourself 1 second. And I was playing it super polite. He was like, bitching at me, partly rightly so, right?
Yeah,
I'm just a stranger coming to his house at
10 p.m. Yeah.
But I was so frustrated and so like wet and cold that I was just nodding at him, telling him how much he's right. And in my head, I'm like, just let me in, scream at me inside, let me in, and let me take a shower, and then like tell me whatever you want.
You can continue screaming. Yeah. I mean, just let me take a shower.
He was super angry, and it was an uncomfortable situation. It's hard to get me uncomfortable, but it was an uncomfortable situation. And in the end, after he calmed down a bit and I managed to warm him up, he showed me my room, sick room, after this whole day, sick room, shower inside, like suite basically. And it's also crazy how your day changes from like, you're miserable almost. You're like, you're in the, you're here, and then suddenly with one moment, just because someone kind of, again, saves you,
And your
you're here,
threshold for joy, I, I think
changes completely.
it becomes relative.
It's so true. It's so spot on, because part of the part of this type of experience and adventure in general is you get back to the essence of, like, the basics of life, and you start to value the most simple things in a very different way. And so everything you eat becomes tastier, and just the fact of having something to eat, and even if it's bread, cheese, and a tuna can, and you have
It
someone to laugh
tastes good.
and you have someone to laugh with, like, those become treasures, and
Yeah.
on the day to day you take it for granted. But when you're on these type of trips, and I'm not saying that's the only way to do a trip, like, no, you can have a more luxurious trip and would be just as fun. But for me, it was also, like, the point was also making it a bit of a challenge, and not relying on too much materialism. Let's put it that way. And so you have food, you have water, you have someone to crack a joke with, and a bed to sleep, and that's it. Like, you conquer the day, and you feel so good. So it's definitely relative. Yeah.
That's cool. So before we bring it home, I think just wanted to ask one or two more things. First one, we didn't really dive into your favorite country, culture. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about everywhere you went. I think in the end, how many countries did you go to?
Okay.
How many were there? Seven,
Spain,
eight?
no, nine. It was 9 countries. It was Spain, France, Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Albania, Greece.
Okay, let's do a fire round. Best food,
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, Italian.
I mean, yeah, I got fat in Italy for sure.
Got fat everywhere. You arrived fatter than
I arrived.
you arrived. You left.
We didn't speak about that. I arrived with my face absolutely
You looked like a pear.
inflamed,
Yeah, it was.
like
It
a
was
pear,
weird.
like an apple. Yeah, back to normal
Okay.
somewhat.
Best scenery.
Ah, Slovenia.
Okay. Is that why it was your favorite country?
I think Slovenia was just the overall. If I need to pick one favorite one, it was Slovenia, because the roads were quite secluded, like quite empty. The cycling roads, the scenery was great, people very nice, and I just had an overall very positive experience in Slovenia.
Okay. Nicest people.
Bosnia,
Bosnia.
yeah,
That guy made
that
the
guy.
trip.
You see how one person can have such an impact.
Yeah.
But I mean, not only him, but Bosnia have very kind-hearted people.
Got it.
Although everyone was nice. Although it's kind of cliche. But
Yeah. And yeah. The last thing.
best sea vibe, Catalonia.
Okay.
Most fun hosts, like the best hosting
France.
experiences I had, surprisingly. Like, if anyone actually, like, listens to this, surprisingly, France.
Yeah. Those two. That couple with the kids made it.
No, I was hosted multiple times in France,
And they were nice. Everyone.
yeah, I don't know. Somehow people were extremely nice.
But they have very bad rep here. The French people.
I know,
in
but
Europe.
I don't know. I vibe with them.
Do you think you do? Okay. Before we bring it home, I just wanted to ask you, what would you say are the least obvious realizations that someone would have if they were to look at your trip
Mhm.
from the outside?
So if it's something that I took, I'm assuming maybe it's something people could also relate to. But looking at my trip, with the retrospect, I realized how different time has passed, and how differently, sorry, time has passed. Because when we're in our routines, we're doing our thing day in, day out, whether you go to the office or whatever is each one's job is, and you feel time passing in a different way than when you're doing, such an adventure like that. And that's why I think it made me perceive time differently. And I think we cannot stop time, but we can change the way that we see the passage of time. You know what I mean? Like, you mentioned the other day, I think, about it's about how much you fit within this. Can you say what you said? Like, how
Yeah.
much experiences you fit within a certain time frame? No, that makes whether this time was like longer, shorter, more meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that idea of time's gonna pass at the same pace all the time. But if you have a crazy week on which you went out of your comfort zone 2 or 3 times, it's gonna register.
But it's
What
exactly that. It's comfort zone because today everything is so comfortable and so easy to, just stay in our normal routines that we don't have the need to do adventures anymore. And I think adventures are important. Each one can do it in the way that's good for them, that's make them feel alive, right? It doesn't have to be cycling. It doesn't have to be that intense maybe, but it's important because that's where you meet yourself. That's where you meet the world as well. Half of what we talked about, like was stories with people. And that's how you get out of your comfort zone. And I think that's super important for, especially today that everything is just so extra comfortable
and so routine.
yeah. Yeah, it's like we said in the beginning, you just have to say,
Life was not like this before. Life before people would go hunt one day, go pick berries
yeah,
another
sure.
day.
Okay. We're very far
They
from that, but,
yeah, but
it takes more, will to say, okay, I'm going to do something and actually go and execute it. And, even if it's never going to be comfortable at first, but when you look back, that's the things you remember. Like you don't, you remember the more difficult things, the more challenging things. Like materialism comes, goes, experiences, like those type of experiences that you gather, they're not going anywhere. Like once you have them, they're with you for life. And I don't know, I think that's how at least I decided that I want to guide my life, kind of moving
moving
forward.
forward.
You have to make sure that you're adventuring around because yeah, it's again another cliche, but it's we have a limited time here, so we have to make sure we see the world, we see
Make the most out of it.
people. Yeah,
Thank you, Nevo. It was super nice to have you.
amazing.
Very good
Thanks.
second episode.
Thank you for letting me rant out everything about my trip.
No, it was a cool trip. I think it was.
That was fun.
It's worth speaking about, and it's worth letting the world know about it because there's something about it. So yeah, congrats on doing that. Looking forward to the next one. I know you're very you have an itch of doing it
Definitely
again
gonna do it
sometime
again.
soon.
Definitely. So
And yeah,
next year
next year then
or this year,
we'll have another debrief on how that went. Maybe Japan, you're saying. So let's see how that goes.
let's go. Fun
Thank
talk,
you.
man.